So in some sense, just waiting this thing out is...
Yeah.
The stars seem to be aligning, which is incredible.
Ian Fraser, Fathom Nickel here on day one of VRIC still, and he's just going to introduce himself and his company to us, please.
Well, as you said, Matthew, Ian Fraser, CEO, VP Exploration of Fathom Nickel Inc. 3 properties in Saskatchewan, very prospective nickel properties in Saskatchewan.
And so maybe we'll delve into this here as we discuss, 2025 in review and 2026 in preview. But can you just recap where Fathom Nickel was in 2025 and where you are now, I suppose?
Well, that's an interesting question because just as of sort of the last 6 weeks, things have changed quite significantly.
Yes.
But certainly, 2025 things were not good. I mean, we were able to raise a little bit of money early in the year. And we did some field work, which sort of these times allow you to do is you're not necessarily at the mercy of the drill bit all the time. But so we got out and did some really good boots on the ground work. We brought Al Coots onto the board. That was another sort of significant milestones for us. And Al being, of course, involved in the Noront-Wyloo transaction in the Ring of Fire in 2021. And then, then towards the end of the year, Doug and I made the decision to just, we got to be drilling in 2026. And at the time, nickel was still 6.5, 6.25 a pound. And then towards the end of December, things started trickling back up. And here we are in the new year, and suddenly things were looking quite promising, which is fantastic.
Coming out of the desert a bit, hey? And so I want to, part of what draws me to Fathom Nickel has always been, your approach to your technical excellence and your approach to exploration, I think is laudable, and I think what every junior should be approaching it or how they should be working it. I'll ask you to discuss that in a second, but can you just maybe preview then for us, you have a high impact drill campaign that you're on the verge of spudding here in the next few weeks. Maybe can you just preview 2026 for us and what you'll be doing and where you'll be exploring?
Yeah, well, we announced the financing last week, and so that's come together very nicely. So final monies in the bank will be February 18th, and what we're going to do with this capital is drill. I think time's going to allow, so somewhere 3,000 to 3,500 meters is I think what we'll be able to accomplish end of February to the first week of April, essentially. And what we're going to be testing there is, we've been telling people, and this is what the field programs were designed around, was, okay, we've got to demonstrate some scale. There's, nickel deposits typically don't occur by themselves. They're typically along a common conduit, and we've demonstrated that. And now with the the surface work that we did, we've got numerous targets away from the historical deposit. So this is what we're going to be testing is, what's to the northeast and what's potentially to the southwest. So these are the things that we're looking at. Again, demonstrating that scale.
Excellent. And so maybe I'll ask you, you have your Gold Sugar project that you're working on, that'll be your flagship, that's your focus for this year. For people that are listening and following along in the story, or people that are aware of nickel where it's had a rough couple years because of the Indonesia effect and HPAL, can you just maybe give us just a brief update on the nickel market, where it stands, and maybe where you think the optimism for the future, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Matthew, and something we've been saying since we went public in 2021. There was just this tremendous interest in nickel, and then it just suddenly went straight south, and it was just like we knew what was going on in Indonesia, and it wasn't good. And the Chinese were in control, and so sort of the flooding of the market of nickel. I mean, the true numbers are still a little bit of a mystery, but now that we're seeing that Indonesia is kind of taking back a little bit of its control as to what the Chinese were doing. I mean, they were building smelters like crazy, and now they can't even feed them. You're importing ore from the Philippines, and you got smelters being built, and there's just not enough feed, and then all the high grade is it's diminishing. Like the really good fruit stuff that's not too far below surface is that has been exploited. So now the Indonesian government is trying to put some controls on that, and then they're revoking licenses to people that aren't following the forestry permits and things like that. So it's always been a bit of a wild card, and I think that's kind of what's behind this new interest in nickel is, okay, well, the price has crept up, and maybe this methodology over there just can't go on forever. So it's bringing back some focus to true magmatic type deposits and certainly things closer to home, North America.
Yeah, and I think that nickel remains, the most critical, or one of the most critical of all critical metals, and it just feels like we're waiting for that other shoe to drop in terms of China or Indonesia sort of to wrest control or to exert control in the way that we've seen them with tungsten or silver or other metals that they've started to tighten the knot a bit, right? And I guess maybe I'll ask you can you just run through what you see from Go Sugar and the prospectivity or the potential that you see that you'll be drilling out there with your 3,000 meters?
Well, I guess the thing that I'm most excited about is, with the prospecting that we did last summer and this fall, we've uncovered this mineralized variable textured gabbro along strike, 3.5 kilometers along strike. And with the assays that we did, we were able to get true nickel tenor calculations, and we can use nickel tenor as a vector. So when you're seeing outcrops that have 4.5% nickel tenor, 1.5 kilometers away from the historic deposit, and then those samples or those rock assays that we collected directly over top of the Go Sugar deposit, they're coming in at 4.5, and we know everything subsurface was in that sort of 2.5 to 4.5 range in terms of nickel tenor. So seeing these outcrops along strike of the same nickel tenor just begs the question: what is subsurface?
Lurking, yeah.
Are we going to get into more of these high-grade sulfide breccias? I think so. And ultimately, we want to find this body of massive sulfide. So that's what we're going to be doing, and the drilling is going to be the first step. We'll get a better understanding of the geology along strike to depth. Some of this stuff is under rocks that we don't fully understand. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting time, and again, this trying to step outside of the box here a little bit and demonstrating that we're in a district, and that's kind of what we've been saying all along. Is this is what we want to demonstrate, and this will be a very, very important step to confirm that.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so high impact drill campaign, a couple of weeks away from spud, and high grade, excellent magmatic nickel sulfide deposits still are just kind of one of those discoveries that still sets the market on fire, right? So
I think it will. And I think just there's a real buzz in the nickel market all of a sudden, and I think the timing would be very good. A really good intersection, I think, would be very well received.
Excellent. Well, no, thank you for your time, and good luck. I'm watching this one closely.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks.